This week on the Baseline Podcast, Josh and I continue our breakdown and previews of the NFL and of college football. We first talk about, well, the Big 12. We focus on who's coming out on top this year. Will it be Texas? Will it be Oklahoma? Will it be Oklahoma State, Kansas State? Who knows? We're going to break it down for you. And then we also talk about the AFC South. Who's going to win this division? It seems like it's up in the air. All that and so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben, that's Josh. Ignore the shirt. We'll get through that in a second. But no, we are back again with another episode of the podcast. A crazy day for both of us because we got to record a lot. But you don't know that. You have no idea if that's going to happen or not. You're just going to have to see. So, but no, it's going to be a crazy day. I'm getting ready to go to America. So, Josh, we might have an episode in like 2 weeks that is going to be in person. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that, first off?
Man, it's crazy because we used to record in person all the time back in the day.
That is true. It's like old memories. It's like old memories are coming back of when Josh had no personality whatsoever when he's doing radio. Wow. I'm kidding, Josh. I'm kidding. No, we're all good. So anyways, Josh, how's your weekend been, I guess? What's going on?
Not a whole lot this past weekend, but this weekend I got tickets to go watch Cleveland Indians against the Phillies. So that should be an exciting time.
You mean Guardians? We need to be politically correct.
No, we don't. My political joke of the day, remember?
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
I don't have those. That's your segment.
That is my segment. Well, also, I didn't really want to talk about the good thing we're talking about football these next few weeks because the Reds right now suck. And I did have
to
if we have to
talk about our baseball teams, that might be bad.
That might be a long-winded statement. But Josh, how do you feel about the NFL is 50 days away? As we're recording this on July 19th, NFL is 50 days away. And even college football is even sooner. How do you feel? Like, is this the moment? Do you ever feel like this is the moment of the summer where you just start getting really hyped because you know football is just like inching around the corner and we're getting ready to see, what the teams are that they've done all off season and everything like that?
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of, excuse me, a lot of Menace to Sports, a lot of Late Kick with Josh Pate, every now and then some solid verbal, just trying to get as much college football content in as I can. Yeah. Joel Klatt's been doing a really cool series.
Yeah, that's really cool too. I love it too.
Big time head coaches too. So especially for the college game, which like you said is even sooner, I'm so ready. And I think there's a couple things in the NFL everybody's excited to see too, like seeing Deshaun Watson and a full season coming up since he hasn't done that in a while. We'll be seeing a couple of new rookie quarterbacks like CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. We'll be getting to see if Trevor Lawrence makes that big jump and Calvin Ridley back from his suspension. And then I guess just keeping up to see if anyone else is going to get suspended for gambling or not either. So
there's going to get a point where that just becomes all legal anyways, but I'm just happy because I can't wait to see the Browns prove many people wrong because I saw something today where they said the Browns are going to finish last in the AFC North, but AFC North will be in a few weeks when we're in person, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on that. But Josh, what are our teams that we're going to be talking about today? What are we going to be talking about? What are the news that's going to be coming in that we need to talk about for football? Let us know what's going on.
Man, this episode we're going to be previewing the Big 12 conference, and then after that we'll go into the NFL to talk the AFC South.
Now, before we get into it, obviously, I got a couple texts from some people last episode, and they really liked how we went through it. And again, I want to remind people that we don't have time to go through each team. So, like, let's be honest. Does anybody want to hear us talking about California for like freaking 20 minutes? No one wants to hear that, right? But we do try to get as much knowledge as we can to you through these breakdowns. Also, you'll see the fact that Josh and I can either be really similar or really different. So it is definitely worth a while for you to see. Listen to these. Obviously, we're doing this week. Josh, do we know what's in the future, the next week and the week after that?
Next is going to be the ACC and the AFC East. And then we're trying to save in person for the Big Ten and the AFC North.
Yes. And then we'll fill in the rest of the time. Like once we all get back on schedule, we'll fill in the rest of the time with whatever time we have left. We will add the other divisions /conferences. So, Josh, Big 12. What
Man,
a weird conference it is.
what a weird conference indeed. So we're welcoming Cincinnati,
Mhm.
UCF, BYU, and Houston in the
Yeah.
conference. So at least at the moment, there's going to be 14 teams. It's the last season that Oklahoma and Texas are going to be in the conference. Um, and I mean, Kansas State won it last year, kind of a
Yeah.
surprise. It wasn't, in fact, TCU, even though they were the playoff team. And TCU is also going to have its own obstacles to get over this season. But, Ben,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to kick this off with my Big 12 conference championship
Okay.
prediction here.
All right. Let's do it. And
I
now
think
to clarify with people, they're still doing. They don't do divisions, right? They just do the
no
top
divisions
two.
in the
They just
Big
do the
12.
top
No.
two, kind of like what the Big Ten's going to do. Got it.
Yes.
Got it.
Man. So I am ready to officially
Is this like
claim.
stamped? Is this stamped in ink? Like
This is one that I feel really good about. It's
Okay.
one of the
right.
predictions I feel really good about is Texas winning the Big 12.
Oh,
I think this is the year that they're going to be back. And I got
Sarkisian.
Sarkisian. Yes, I got some numbers that I can throw at you too that can maybe get you on board with me if you aren't
Maybe
already.
I'm kind of on the shaky ship here.
Yeah, it's been tough because there's been so many times
I don't
where it looked
trust
like
them.
they could be.
I don't trust them.
And then very inconsistent program. But Sark has had them up and up. I think they won 5 games in this first season, and then they jump up to 8 wins last season.
Yeah.
This season, they're coming in 19th in returning production, which includes 10 of their 11 offensive starters. Just Bijan Robinson's the only one that's not back. And that team last year was 20th in points per game, 23rd in yards per game. The receiver room, I think, is going to be one of the best in the country, right behind Ohio State's. Looking through, you got Xavier Worthy in there. You got A.D. Mitchell transferring in from Georgia. And you got some experience with Jordan Whittingham and Isaiah Nayer. I think it's just going to be a really solid, complete room. Plenty of weapons for Quinn Ewers to throw to.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that Bijan Robinson is gone, as well as Roschon Johnson, their backup running back. But they got C.J. Baxter coming in, #1 freshman running back in the country. I don't know how much time he's going to get this season, but he could be one of those next great Texas running backs like Bijan or like Jamal Charles or Cedric Benson before him. And then defensively, this is what most people probably don't know is that Texas was actually 18th in yards per play last year and 21st in scoring defense. But they only got 63% returning production on the defensive side.
Yeah.
So there is some holes that they're definitely going to need to fill in there, but they've been recruiting well. That hasn't been lacking, getting talent in the building. And then I think, too, when you look through their schedule last year, they caught a couple tough breaks, like the loss to Bama by 1.
Shouldn't have lost
Quinn
that
Ewers
game.
got hurt in.
Shouldn't have lost
Texas
that game.
Tech, they lost to by 3 in overtime. That was also a game that Quinn Ewers didn't play in. Later in the season, they got in a defensive struggle with TCU and lost that by 7. And then they also lost to Oklahoma State by 7. That was kind of a crazy game to watch, too. As far as the schedule goes this year, though, Ben, they do have Bama again, once at Tuscaloosa. That's not going to have any impact on where they finish in the Big 12, though, since it's out of conference.
Yep.
And then in conference, they got to go
at home.
Oh, well, kind of at home. It's at the
it's neutral.
Texas State Fair.
Yeah.
But in conference, they got to go to Baylor. They host Kansas. Then they got the Oklahoma game. They go to Houston. They host BYU. They host Kansas State. They got to go to TCU and Iowa State. And then they host Texas Tech at the end of the season this year.
Yeah.
It's definitely a doable schedule. Like I said, Bama's like the big game that they're probably circling up there, but that's not going to have any impact on the Big 12 standings at least. And then some of these other teams, you never know, like Kansas with the healthy Jalen Daniels could give them a hard time. Oklahoma, will they bounce back? Kansas State, the defending conference champs, what are they going to come back with this year? And is TCU going to be able to reload? And Texas Tech is one of those teams that's kind of on the come up too. But I really like what Texas has coming back. Again, one other note, the offensive line was a little small, young, undersized last year. So they got a whole year under their belt to get into the weight room, get bigger, get stronger, get more experience.
Yeah.
I really like Texas across the board. There's not really any other team that I look at and I'm like, this is a team that could really challenge Texas.
Yeah, I was just actually looking at that schedule, and if I look at Texas's schedule right now, and I look at it, because this is the thing, I'm really between Texas, Kansas State, and maybe TCU. But again, I have no idea with TCU because I feel like now I don't know the team, like because I feel like every guy that we know it's gone.
You really
right?
don't.
So this is why I've really been between Kansas State, Texas. Maybe one of the new teams come in and surprise people. I don't really know. But I look at their schedule. I look at Texas schedule. Like Rice, win. At Alabama, let's be honest, you can't really win it at Alabama. It's pretty much impossible. So that's a loss.
Although this looks like one of the most beatable Alabama teams we've seen in a while.
I do like if you guys have watched Crane and Company, if any of you out there has watched Crane and Company, they brought up a very good point. Could Auburn and Alabama end up with the same record? To be honest, I agree with the Cranes a little bit. It's not that far off to think that.
I think in that case, like you need to have Auburn reach their ceiling and Bama reach their floor.
But I think the point I'm trying to say is though is like it wouldn't be shocking to see Alabama come away with 3 losses. But we'll talk about them when we get to them. But in this sense, right now in this prediction, I think Alabama wins. Again, I just think beating Nick Saban in Tuscaloosa is very hard. So I don't see that. They beat Wyoming. I think they beat Baylor. Baylor's the other team that I don't really know about. Like, I feel like, is it the good Baylor team or is it the team that's going to just kind of shy mid region a little bit? I think they beat Kansas. I think that they're going to beat Oklahoma. I don't think Oklahoma is going to be that much of a test this year. That's just my opinion. I think they beat Houston. I think they beat BYU. Kansas State and TCU are the 2 tough games. Iowa State is always freaking hard at Iowa State. Josh, I don't know how this is, but Iowa State, for some reason, every team that goes to Iowa State, just like it's like this like game where they all just kind of fold, and I don't know what it is. But it is interesting. So really, if I look at their schedule, I just for preference, Josh, I do have them in my championship game. I think they finish conference play. I think they finish conference play undefeated. I don't really think see them losing anybody. But then there's that other team. Who's going to be that other team? I'm going to say Kansas State. I think Kansas State the last few years has had this model of now, again, I'm not saying Kansas State's going to be out there undefeated, but if you look at Kansas State, if you look at their schedule, right? Like I was looking at their schedule just briefly. They have Southeast Missouri State, win. Troy, win. At Missouri, win. UCF, win. At Oklahoma State, could be a tough one, but I think win. At Texas Tech, win. TCU, win. Houston, win. Texas game, probably a loss. Baylor, win. At Kansas, could be tough. I think win. I think you could see Kansas State leave with at most 2 losses, in my opinion. So for me in the championship game, I have Texas versus Kansas State. I'll be honest, I was like you last week. I didn't really have a champion picked. But now that you started talking and the pendulum has been swaying, I've been thinking, and I have to agree with you. I think if you look overall, I think Texas has the most capability of going out there and saying, this is our conference. But this is the issue. Josh, we've grown up around Texas football where they have one good year, and then there's years where like, oh, they should be really good. They should win the conference, and then they fold. And I think we've seen that the last few years. Who's going to be the quarterback? Is it Quinn Ewers? Is it Archie Manning? I think we all know it's Quinn Ewers, but then again, it's Sarkisian. We never know with him. What is he going to do? So for me, I think it goes Texas versus Kansas State in the Big 12 championship game. I think you see Texas winning it. I think then the other my top 5 teams, so the other 3 outside those 2, I think you have to put Baylor in there. I think you put it's hard. I think you put Oklahoma, maybe. I don't know. And then I don't know about the 5th one. To be honest, Josh, this conference is the hardest to judge out of all the other conferences. It's so hard.
It's very close to the ACC.
It is.
Everybody's like kind of the same.
2 good games. There's like 2 good teams, and then the rest just feel like they're
all even.
But even I want to go back to Kansas State for a second, because I want you to wrong button. If you I have their stats pulled up here, and if I would just go back to it here, but if I look at their stats from last year, so we obviously know they lost Deuce Vaughn, which I think that's a big hurt for them. The question is, who are they going to have at quarterback? That's the question.
It's going to be Will Howard, who has experience starting.
Yes, it's going to be Will Howard. I think he's going to be a 5th-year senior or 6th-year senior. I cannot remember off the top of my head.
He's been around, but he started before Adrian Martinez came in. He was starting when Adrian Martinez got hurt, so he was even playing a little bit last year, but I think they're in good hands with him.
This is the issue. The one big issue for Kansas State, you look at who do they have running the ball? They have DJ Giddens back, but he's only had 518 yards on 89 carries. You got to realize the bulk of their carries and yards were from Adrian Martinez and Deuce Vaughn. Those were literally their ball carriers. And so, 19 of their 32 rushing touchdowns were between those two guys. You look at some of their receivers, it's not a flashy group, right? Because their best receiver, Malik Knowles, gone. Their second best receiver, Phillip Brooks, I believe is back. I think so. I think he's gonna be a senior this year. And so my question for you, Josh, is what is another team like? Who do you see competing with Texas? Do you think it is Kansas State, or do you think it's one of these other teams that maybe are not the greatest out of the bunch, but they can maybe put together a run and then they go and make a run at the end of the season?
So it's tough to say, but one team that I at least think could be a sleeper, definitely a top 5 finish in the conference, though, is the other team in the state, Kansas.
Interesting. Okay.
Let me give you the Kansas pitch here. So they actually rank first nationally in returning production. 91% of its offense is back, which ranked 22nd in scoring and 12th in yards per play last year. 79% of their defensive production is returning. However, they only ranked 127th in scoring defense, 120th in yards per play. So I don't know how excited you are about like all of that coming back. But talking at least offensively, Jalen Daniels, the freshman quarterback last year, when he was healthy, was leading the country in QBR before he got hurt in that TCU game.
He was,
and they kind of went on a losing streak there in the middle of the season, which may or may not have happened since it was the bulk of their conference schedule too. I don't really know if they would have won or lost those, but offensive production didn't seem to dip too much, even with him going down. The other thing that they're gonna have to overcome this year too is schedule. I think
they have a rough schedule.
They got to play.
Illinois.
So they got to play Texas. They got to play Oklahoma. They got to play Texas Tech. They got to play Kansas State, Cincinnati, UCF, probably two of the top new teams. So it's just like they got to play like basically all the best teams in the conference.
It's funny, Josh. You look at this schedule. Just listen to this for a second. They have BYU at home, at Texas, UCF at home, at Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, at Iowa State, Texas Tech, Kansas State, both at home, and then at Cincinnati. I'm sorry, that's a rough stretch.
It's got to be one of the toughest schedules in the whole conference. I haven't looked at everybody's, but I mean that's like 4 of the best 5 teams that they got to play.
So this is my question then, Josh. If you look at their schedule, what do you have? Do you have like they win their first 4 games and then you start taking losses, or what do you see as you look at this? Obviously, I think we both agree they'll probably go 3-0 maybe at the front, 4-0. Would you say that?
I think so. I think with Missouri State, Illinois, Nevada, BYU, that's a 4-0 start. And since we both like Texas to win the conference, I'm pegging that as a loss.
Yep.
UCF isn't going to be easy. I mean,
I think they'll be at home.
American last year, but I'm going to go ahead and call it a win for now. So then you're 4-1 in that case, or 5-1 in that case. Oklahoma State, I think they can win. That's a 6-1.
Yep.
Oklahoma, those tough. I mean, Iowa State's not the greatest, but we've mentioned how tough it can be to win there. Texas Tech's another team that I think could finish maybe 2nd or 3rd in this conference. Kansas State, another one, defending conference champ. And Cincinnati, they're kind of tough to read right now. They're going through a coaching change over there and new players in the building, so we don't really know what their team's going to look like. But I would say at the floor, this is a 6-6 team, but at the ceiling, I think they could maybe go 8-4, 9-3.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the toughest games on that schedule is obviously at Texas. I think versus Oklahoma at home.
Oklahoma at home is going to be
tough. Versus
tough.
Texas Tech and Kansas State back-to-back weeks. Both those.
I guess that is one saving grace here, right? Is that some of their toughest games, like the Oklahoma, the Texas Tech, the Kansas State, those are home games at least.
Yeah, and I think another team that I want to highlight is that Texas Tech team, right? Like this was another team that I was like, okay, they're definitely in the top 5. That's why I said, like, I don't know, like, where does Oklahoma stand? Where does TCU stand? Because I think TCU is a lot of questions. Oklahoma does. But if you look at Texas Tech schedule, I want to read you the schedule here, Josh. You let me know what you think. You have at Wyoming, home versus Oregon, versus Tarleton. You have at West Virginia, versus Houston, at Baylor, versus Kansas State at home, at BYU, at home versus TCU, at Kansas, at home versus UCF. They finished with Texas. If I'm looking at that schedule right now, I think they probably get to the Texas game. At worst, they are 9-2. At best, they are 10-1.
Very, very possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think they lose against Oregon. I don't think they have a shot. I think Oregon beats them. I think it's pretty handily. And I think Kansas State, in my opinion, Kansas State beats them. So I think I have them going into that Texas game 9-2. And then obviously it depends on what happens in that Texas game. But I look at their guys coming back, right? You look at some of these guys they have come back. Remember they had a three-headed monster at quarterback. I don't think I've ever said that in an episode, that a team has a three-headed monster. But they had 3 different guys as their quarterback. Obviously Donovan Smith has transferred out. He's at Houston now. Tyler Show, can't say it.
I think is how you say it.
He's a senior. He's back. You also have, I believe, Morton. I believe, he's a sophomore. So we don't know where they're going with the quarterback. I don't know if you've heard anything, Josh. I don't know where they're going with the quarterback situation. But
I would lean Tyler Show, but I'm not 100% sure.
So you have those guys coming back. Then you have with running the ball, you have Taj Brooks coming back, who I believe is a very underrated running back, who I think could do some damage. Then you also have, I believe, they lost Cedric Thompson. He's gone. So that was, those 2 guys are the bulk of their running back. But then you do have some other Valdez, some of these other guys that can be some difference makers. What do you notice about Texas Tech? Anything that's kind of comes back to you? I mean, if you look on the defensive side of the ball, they obviously lost. They lost their best player, like on their whole team. I cannot remember his name off the top of my head. He went to did he go to the Raiders, right? What's his name?
Yeah, it was the Edge. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Not think of the name
after
right now.
talking about him 17 straight weeks, it felt like I completely remember his name.
But I look at this.
Refer to our mock draft episodes if you want to know who it is for sure.
please do that.
Gee whiz,
because we're awful.
This is bad.
But obviously they lose. I think Merriweather and Eldridge. They both graduate. I think they're 2 linebackers. I'm pretty sure they did, but I'm not sure on that. So they're top. I mean, they're top. Yeah, Tyree Wilson got it. I got it. It came back to me. So to be honest, if you take those 3 dudes away, I mean, really they don't have a lot returning on defense. But again, we've seen how in the Big 12 you don't have to have a great defense. You can have
nobody ever
okay
really does.
Defense. You can have an okay defense and be all right. So, Josh, what do you look at this Texas Tech team? What do you think? And then is there maybe one other team that we want to talk about before we go into individuals?
I think in this conference, schedule is going to play a big factor into it. We've been mentioning some of the teams that avoid some, like I'm going to bring up Oklahoma State's schedule here for an example. They don't face Texas, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, TCU, or Baylor, and they get all 4 new G5 teams: Cincinnati, BYU, UCF.
So Oklahoma State
Houston.
could sneakily
go 8-4 and not even be good, or maybe 9-3.
That is a good point.
All because of the way that their schedule lines up. So I think that's going to play a key role into this conference. Yeah. And like I was saying, Kansas could be one of those like really good teams in this conference, and their record may not show it. And then the struggles that they're going to have to overcome on the defensive side of the ball too could hold them back a little bit. But going back to Texas Tech, I think schedule is going to play a big factor into this.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of rooting for them to be that second team simply because that would give us back-to-back weeks of Texas Tech, because they finished the season against each other.
Yeah. So my question, which that would be like, that's gonna be like the forecasting what the Big Ten is gonna be like versus Michigan and Ohio State. That's what it's gonna be. Speaking of Michigan, freaking. I tried to go this long, Josh, until I had to say that word, and then it's just. If everyone doesn't know, if you're not watching but listening in your car, having a nice drive out in the evening, maybe you're just going to get some tacos or you're going to go get a pizza, right? Just know that there's this botchery going on here where Josh has decided to come on the podcast. David Cohn's not on the podcast, so I don't know why he's wearing it, but he's decided to wear a Go Blue shirt because sometimes we get hit in the head a little bit too much, at work or whatever it
This
is.
was a Goodwill find for $4, and
There's
it's
a
made
reason.
by
Listen,
the Jordan
listen.
brand.
There's a reason why it was at Goodwill. There is a reason. People have to return something that's not worth anything. So, anyways, that's besides the point. But getting back to the Big 12, because we're not talking about the Big 10 today. I swear, though, if you wear a Michigan shirt on the Big 10, this is gonna be it'll be a long episode.
Maybe I'll wear something random like Michigan State or Iowa.
I could deal with that. But in general, what I did want to say was, I think you look at this conference, and the Texas Tech and all these different teams. Let's just give our top 5. We predict being the top 5 Big 12 teams. I know we kind of talked about it a little bit, but let's go ahead and give our top 5 Big 12 teams down from 1 to 5. You do it first.
Yeah. So I already said that Texas is my champ. Yep. The 2 through 5 are going to be pretty close together. I'm not going to rank them in any particular order, but like I said, Kansas. I like Texas Tech. I like Kansas State as an option. And then kind of like tied for that 5th spot, I think it could go like either to Oklahoma or maybe even Oklahoma State just because of the record. But that's more so just because of who they play, not because of talent in the building. And I'm not going to rule UCF out of like a 5th place finish either. Yeah. Gus Malzahn's coached Power 5 football before in the SEC. They finished 2nd in the American last year. They got their quarterback, John Reese Plumlee, who famously threw 2 touchdowns in the spring game and then went and got 2 hits in the baseball game later in the day.
Stud.
Super athletic. I think out of all the new teams this season, UCF could possibly do the most damage. But those are the kind that I like. Let me talk about Oklahoma real briefly.
Yeah, for sure.
I think what people forget about last year is they started off 3-0 and had people like Aaron Lynn calling them a top 5 team in the country. No disrespect to Aaron. I had Utah as a top 5 team. But
I love how we just have to sit just that little dig, just a little dig right there. Just throw it in there.
But you got to keep in mind all the injuries that they had to deal with, especially with Dylan Gabriel at quarterback, trying to overcome all the transfers that they lost that went to USC with Lincoln Riley. Brent Venables coming in as a first-year head coach,
which he did a great job for a team that was in shambles.
They go 6-6 in the regular season. They lose to Florida State in the bowl game, so they end with a 6-7 record. Recruiting hasn't fallen off at all. No Oklahoma fans are calling for his head. It's everybody outside of Oklahoma. So I feel like they really believe in Brent, at least going into year 2. They're not like fretting at all.
Yeah.
Like I said, the recruiting rankings are still there. Dylan Gabriel's back healthy. And if he's not healthy, they got Jackson Arnold, one of the top freshman quarterbacks, I believe, in the country, coming up. That'll probably be starting next season for them. So I think Oklahoma, just give it time. Maybe this season isn't the season. Which kind of sucks to say when you're going to the SEC next season as your season, then the schedule gets all that much more difficult. But don't sleep on Oklahoma just yet or give up on Oklahoma just yet. I think we need to give Brent more time. I think they're building something.
And I think also college football, this as well as I do. College football is not a sport where like you go from when you lose guys, you can't just get next year be really good. This is not like the NFL. It sometimes takes 2 to 3 years for your team to get implemented, for your ideas to get implemented. A lot of these teams, they came from a winning program. So, let's say they were winning and their coach left, and then a new coach just basically gets what's been there, right? So for me, I think it's not too crazy to think that Oklahoma could finish 8-4, 9-3. It's not too hard to think that.
It's not what Oklahoma's used to finishing, but I think they can definitely go 8-4.
And that's the thing. Like the UCF comment was interesting because I think the biggest issue that a lot of these teams like UCF, Houston, BYU, Cincinnati, a lot of the issues they're going to have is like not this year. It's when they have to go to recruit, because how is UCF going to compete against Florida State, Florida, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, all the way down there at UCF, right? It's going to be hard. The same with BYU. Who wants to go out to Utah? I'm just being honest. Like, these are the things you have to compete against. So I'm going to say my top 5 will go Texas, Kansas State, 1 and 2. I think that's very easy for me. I think 3 is for sure Texas Tech. I think those are my top 3. And then 4 and 5, you could really throw a bunch of teams in there. I'm going to go, I think what I'll do is I'm going to put Kansas at 5, and 4, I'm going to throw, I'll throw Oklahoma. Like, I think from 4 to like 7 or 8, it's like the same record. Like
we got the same 5 teams then.
Yeah, same 5 teams.
I just would rank them a little differently.
A little differently, but the same spot.
And you guys might have noticed neither of us have TCU in our top 5. And
Yeah.
at least I can speak on the reason why I don't have him here.
Oh, I have a reason to.
It's because they rank 130th nationally in returning production out of 131,
Yeah.
132 FBS teams. They have literally nobody from that team last year. It's totally unrecognizable. Yes, Sonny Dykes is back, but no Garrett Riley. He's over at Clemson now. No Max Duggan. No Kendre Miller. No Quentin Johnston. You do have Kendall Briles from
defense is
Arkansas
rough.
coming in to replace Garrett Riley as the OC. And the defense, yeah, I mean, this team's totally decimated. Sonny Dykes is going to have his hands.
Well, think about this. I mean, look at that. Look at the national championship game. Even then, this team definitely was not a team you would want competing at that level. And again, that's not trying to rip into TCU. I want everyone to understand that.
Yeah, that's probably the best season TCU football has ever had in its history.
And this is the thing. I'm not saying that TCU was bad last year. Like, to be honest, this is going to sound, I'm going to get so much hate for this in the comments. Let's be honest. Last year, the national championship game was against Ohio State versus Georgia. Let's be honest, just to be real for a second. If you look at the games that happened between the semifinal and the final, that was truly that was like the national title game. I mean, if you look at it from a competitive standpoint, the closest of it to really and you can say whatever you want, but that's in my opinion. But what I'm trying to say is that the reason why I don't have TCU in it is very along the same lines as you, Josh. The biggest thing for me was Riley leaving. To me, that was my biggest thing, was like, this dude created an offense that was so legit with guys we never heard of. And you lose that. You bring a guy from Arkansas. Okay, I get that. Still going to be there. But my question is, when you don't have the same talent, look, I'm coaching football right now. When you don't have the same talent as other teams around you, or the same development, or the same years of experience, Josh, you've seen it how many times in the SEC or in the Big Ten? What happens? You start fading to the back. Does that mean TCU for the next 3 years is going to be like a 4-18? No, I'm not saying that. But there is a real possibility this year that they do not make a bowl game. That's my bold statement for the Big 12. There's a possibility that you could see both TCU, hold on, I'm going to get there, both TCU, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that TCU and Oklahoma State do not make a bowl game. As much as easy to schedule, you said Oklahoma State. I'm going to go out.
That's bold.
I'm going to even say that Oklahoma State is not going to go, and this is my reason with Oklahoma State. Every time, this might just be a personal beef. Every time I pick them to finish in the top 2 or 3 of freaking Big 12, they go to the slump, and it really hurts me. So I'm going to say
the thing though with Oklahoma State too is Mike Gundy just is so consistent.
I know he is.
I feel like the worst I ever see them go is 5-7 or 6-6.
I know. I said it's a personal hate issue. Okay, so
personal hate. Fair enough.
This is just a bad choice. But I will say for sure, TCU will not make a bowl game. And I'm going to go out and say that the only team out of the new teams that make a bowl game, I'm going to say is UCF. The other ones will not.
This is I'm going to read through the TCU schedule here real quick. It's very backloaded. So it is possible they start off with 5 or 6 wins pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then end the season on a huge losing streak. So week 1, they kick it off with a home game against Colorado, which I think is going to be a super fun matchup, all things considered. TCU coming off a national championship runner-up finish. Mm-hmm. Colorado, Deion Sanders, primetime kicking it off over there. They got Nichols next, which should be a win. Then they got to play Houston, SMU, West Virginia, Iowa State. Are we thinking that's maybe a 5-1, 6-0 start?
I think they lose at Iowa State.
Okay, so we're 5-1 right now.
Yeah,
then.
I think they lose at Iowa
First
State.
6 games in the season. Then they got to play BYU.
They win that game.
Okay, so they're 6-1. They've reached bowl eligibility.
No, I'm going to say, hold on. You said, I didn't see Houston. I'm going to say they lose at Houston and at Iowa State.
Okay.
I'm going to say 4-2 going into October 14th.
Okay, and then BYU.
They win that.
All right, so we're 5-2 then?
Yep.
All right, then this is the kicker.
Loss
at Kansas State,
at
Texas Tech, host Texas, host Baylor, at Oklahoma.
They lose all their last games. They lose.
I think so too.
They lose literally the last 5 games will be lost. At Kansas State, they lose by 20. At Texas Tech, they lose by 25. Versus Texas, they lose by 30. Versus Baylor, they lose by 15. Versus at Oklahoma, they lose by 15. I don't think they even get close in any of these games. And that's a bold statement. And I know I know 2 TCU fans that I'm sure are going to be texting me nonstop after they hear this. But I don't care.
I'm going to give the TCU hopeful a tiny little bit of hope at maybe bowl eligibility. Their quarterback this year, I think is going to be Chandler Morris, who was tabbed the week 1 starter last year before he got hurt and replaced by Max Duggan again. So at least at this time last year, they thought Chandler Morris was good enough to be a starting quarterback over a Heisman finalist like Max Duggan. So we'll see what happens, but I'm kind of with you. 6-6, 5-7. They're going to be hovering around that territory, I think.
And watch, Josh, because we have a terrible record of any of our bold predictions being correct. We're going to be completely wrong.
See, I don't think it's super bold to say TCU misses a bowl game, though. I would on Josh Pate's boldness scale, I'd put that at about a 5, honestly.
Then Oklahoma State missing a bowl game, that's just me being
that's more of like a 7 to me, just because I think the schedule's easy enough.
That's true. Anyways, before we wrap up the Big 12, let's talk about who we think will be kind of the player to watch, the player of the year candidate / any Heisman hopefuls or finalists that we see in the Big 12. Now, I'll be honest with you. This was extremely hard for me to figure out because, to be honest, a lot of the good players are no longer in the Big 12 anymore. So I'll start. I think this is going to be like the easiest choice I make, and it's probably going to be the same as yours. I think Quinn Ewers will be both the best player in the Big 12, and I think he has a very legitimate shot. If we say what Texas is going to do this year, I think Quinn Ewers has a real legitimate shot to making the Heisman finalists. I think he could end up with, 3,000 plus yards, 35, 40 touchdown passes, a couple rushing touchdowns. But I think in general, if I look at the whole Big 12, that's the only true name. Maybe Gabriel, maybe some of these other guys, I think even Jalen Daniels at Kansas is another guy. But for me, I think if I just look at it without really going in depth, I really think Quinn Ewers, I think, has what it possesses to be that guy of the Big 12 and to be that player of the year candidate.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to finally find out what Quinn Ewers is made of. Yeah. This is the season.
He made his $1 million at Ohio State. He made his $1 million at Ohio State. He made his $1 million
at Ohio State, and then he went to Texas, and he got to play most of last season. Was kind of inconsistent at times, but there were definitely flashes that showed like, okay, this kid could be good. Cut the mullet off, so he's all business now. So we're going to see if he's all business on the field. So I think that's the low-hanging fruit, Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
And I'm going to throw Jalen Daniels in the mix as well, because everybody remembers like the 4-0, 5-0 start that Kansas had, but then when he got hurt and then they like went on that big losing streak, I think a lot of people forgot about him. But remember, first in the country in QBR when he was healthy on that winning streak. So just a sophomore this season, could be leading one of the top scoring offenses in the country this year. Don't forget about Jalen Daniels.
I'm gonna throw a guy out there, Josh, and this might rattle some cages. As they
rattle
might say.
The cages, Ben.
They might rattle the cages, because I was sitting here this afternoon. I was looking through all these different schedules, right, and all these different teams, trying to figure out what are some guys that I'm watching, and I'm like, man, this team could do some damage. Damage. But I'm gonna have to go with Plumlee out of UCF. I just think this guy is, he's like, he reminds me of the Duggan from last year, right? A guy that we know we didn't know, like, unless you watch UCF football, right? I think unless you're paying attention to UCF football, which I kind of do, because there's a football coach that I coach with here in Hungary that he tried to walk on at UCF and a bunch of other things. So I kind of pay attention to them, but I'm looking up his stats here. To me, I think he's a fascinating John Rise. First off, the name John Rise is it
Rise or Reese?
I want to say Rise because I think it sounds cooler.
Because I think the Phillies first baseman Reese Hoskins spells his name just like this.
So this is what I was going to put it as. This is what he did last year. He ran the ball for 862 yards, 11 touchdowns. He threw for 2,586 yards. He had 14 touchdowns. Like, you look at it and you're like, man, that's not a staggering number. But to be honest, look at Jalen Daniels. I mean, I think it's a very similar type of quarterback, maybe not as great as Jalen Daniels, but to me, I think this is a guy. I am dropping a bomb. This is out of nowhere. This probably won't happen, but I think this is a guy who has another good outside shot of getting a chance to be that Big 12 player of the year, or at least in the conversation.
Definitely going to be a fun guy to watch. I mean, just the athleticism to be able to play
and
both
he's white.
sports.
And he's white. I'm sorry.
Even at Ole
Just
Miss,
being
like
honest.
he's a transfer from Ole
Yeah.
Miss, and he was playing baseball and football over there too in the SEC. So
Like,
it's like he's definitely got the
okay,
talent.
for all of you people, I'm not trying to be like racist or anything. Okay, I'm just saying, like watching a white guy that's that athletic is pretty dang cool for us white guys. Just saying.
Oh yeah, gives the kids
Any
something to
any
look up
any
to.
any outside thoughts you have beyond that?
No, I think that's it. I think we covered the Pac-12 or
Yeah.
Pac-12, Big 12 pretty
Wow.
good.
Wow,
We
Josh.
covered the Pac-12 pretty good last
Yeah,
week.
we did.
Big 12 though, yeah. So that's a wrap there. Want to move on to some AFC South NFL
Let's
discussions.
do some AFC South because we obviously know the AFC South is always the most entertaining. I feel like this is the most entertaining division in the AFC because I think the AFC. This is the thing, Josh. Before we get into talk, I think the AFC South is one of those conferences or divisions, I should say. Like the AFC North, we always know it's going to be like Baltimore, Bengals, or Pittsburgh, right? I'm saying that as a Browns fan, right? Like that's what we've been used to. That's what we've been used
for
to
about 15 straight years.
Yeah, but you think about the AFC South. When have we ever seen the same team win it more than like twice? I don't think they've had a team win it more than twice in a row. I'm pretty sure it's been like I think it's been like this a different team every single year, at least as far as I remember.
Yeah, it's tough to say because the Colts ran that division for a long time with Peyton Manning and Luck being there. And then the Texans had their couple times that they'd sprinkle in with like Matt Schaub, Andre Johnson,
Arian
Foster,
what a guy, Matt
JJ
Schaub.
Watt, yeah. So they'd sprinkle in a little bit, and then I think more recently it's been the Titans to get like their chance at it. But a lot of those guys are starting to like fade out and retire or get cut, and now it could be the Jags' time.
Can I give you a bold statement? Can I start with a bold statement?
Start bold.
Jacksonville Jaguars finishing the year 12-4.
Not even just winning the division; they're going 12-4, which now Vegas has their over/under line at 9.5. So that's pretty bold.
Hold on, here we go. I want to go through the schedule. This one
also crazy. 12-4. So does that mean they're forfeiting a game?
Sorry, not 12-4, 13-4. Sorry, I'm used to the 16.
13-4.
Here we go. Watch this. Here we go. Indianapolis win. Kansas City loss. Houston win. Atlanta win. Buffalo win because it's at home. Indianapolis win. At New Orleans, sneaky loss. At Pittsburgh win. San Francisco at home win. Win versus Tennessee. At Houston win versus the Bengals loss. That's 3 losses. At Cleveland loss. And Baltimore win. At Tampa Bay win. Carolina win. And Tennessee at Tennessee win. I'm just going to open up with a bold statement, Josh Burris. I am putting my foot down. Jacksonville Jaguars. But tell me, you look at their schedule. Tell me that does not seem reasonable. You look at their schedule and tell me that doesn't seem reasonable. Against the team in the AFC
I don't know
South.
how they beat Buffalo. I don't know how they're beating the Niners.
Listen to this though. Take away one of those two. Let's say they get one of those two. Let's just say they get one of those two. They finish 12-5. Tell me that's not reasonable. 12-5 because they lose to the Bengals, they lose to the Browns, they lose to the Chiefs. And let's say they lose to who else did I say they lose to?
I think more so like I could get on board with 10-7, 11-6.
Okay, that's you. I'm just saying there is something about this Jaguars team, and this is why I'm going to open up with this. I don't know if this is where you're going to go with this, but we're going to go with it.
Well, I was going to open up and say that this just looks like a one-horse race in this division, honestly. I think it's the Jags unless they just majorly screw it up. And I think they got 6 wins for sure in that division. And then the other ones I think are going to come from maybe a game at Pittsburgh, or maybe they can steal one from like a Cleveland or Cincinnati. I think they can win at Tampa Bay. I think they can win against the Panthers, but
I'm going bold, man.
It's tough to say. I think that like we were saying with this is Quinn Ewers' year, I think this is the Trevor Lawrence prove it year where he makes himself known. A lot of people are projecting him to be a top 5 quarterback this season. And I think if we can get the version of Trevor Lawrence that played in those last 6-7 games of the regular season last year, minus the playoff game where he throws 5 picks in the first half, just take the second half of that game with Trevor Lawrence. I think we could get that.
This is why I think they can beat the 49ers. Right now with the 49ers, we don't know how healthy is their offense going to be. How healthy? We never know with the 49ers. It feels like
I feel good about their offense. We just don't know who's going to be the quarterback at least to
exactly.
start the season. Like
Yeah.
if Purdy comes back, I feel good, but if it's Trey
To be
Lance
honest,
or Sam Darnold, I don't know.
I can't remember what I said last week. I probably said that the 49ers were beating the Jaguars, but
No, I'm
maybe
way higher on the 49ers than you are.
maybe
That's what I've got.
I could have maybe said that, but act like I didn't say that and act like I said the Jaguars beat them. And with the bill, and this is with the Bills. This is what I would say with the Bills. So with the Bills, I'm very interested about the Diggs situation. What's going on with their? Obviously, you have Josh Allen. Again, I'm not. Listen, if this was at Buffalo, if it was at Buffalo,
Isn't
this
it at
wouldn't
Buffalo?
be. I don't think it is. I believe
Looks like it for me in the schedule.
Hold on. Is it at? No, it's at home.
Oh, it's an international series. It's at London.
Yeah, so it's automatically not a home game for either team. So I'm going to give it to them. But think about it this way: look at the running back room. They have Travis Etienne. Sneaky pick, Josh. We know this guy really well. Dearness Johnson, who used to play for Cleveland. Guy, if they can get the version of what we had a few years ago, that's a great number 2 back.
And they drafted Tank Bigsby too. So
yeah, and
the whole running back room should be good.
Yeah, and then they moved Jamal Agnew. They moved him from running back to a slot receiver. You have also looking here. You have Zay Jones. You have Christian Kirk. You have Jalen Moore. You have Calvin Ridley. Tight end, you have.
Let me talk about Calvin Ridley real quick.
Go ahead. Yeah,
go ahead. Last time he played a full season healthy, he had 90 catches, 1,374 yards, and 9 touchdowns. I think that was one of the most underrated signs / trades of the offseason. Well, that's huge.
But think about it this way. But think about this, Josh. What have we seen in all the other sports we've watched? When a guy misses a whole year, he almost comes back better than what he was, especially if it was an injury. If it was a suspension, we almost see all these guys come back with like a new this new body of like work, and they know how to do things better. To me, you look at the tight end room, you have Evan Ingram, Luke Farrell, you have some of these guys. You have Semis Reyes, very underrated guy from Puerto Rico, who I think is going to be a pretty good linebacker in the future. A very underrated but good offensive line. You look at their defense. You have
it's young.
Yeah, it's very young, but I think
Clavon Chasen, Devin Lloyd, Trayvon Walker, a lot of guys that
Devon Hamilton,
got potential.
Falusu Fakusi, can never say his name correctly. You have you look at the defensive backfield. You have Chris Claybooks. You have Tyson Campbell. You have trying to think of some other names. Darius Williams. You have Andre Sisco, Rashawn Jenkins. You have Andrew Wingard, who I feel like has been playing for years, even though he's only played for 4 years. So I look at this Jaguars team, and I was looking at the production they had last year, and obviously we forget the Urban Meyer year, but this team looks very solid. I don't see another team that can compete with them. I don't think the Colts are anywhere near ready. There's no way Richardson, as much as I know you're a Florida guy, he's not going to be ready. I think he's going to get obliterated. I think his numbers are going to be very ugly. Here's my second bold prediction. I have 3 bold predictions for the AFC South, and I'm going to give you my second one. Second one, Richardson throws 20+ interceptions.
20+.
That's my second bold prediction of the AFC South.
It wouldn't. I mean, it wouldn't shock me. I'm just about to check to see how many quarterbacks threw 20 interceptions last year, just to be like, okay, this is actually how bold this statement is.
I feel like it's pretty bold. I feel like I don't think there's many.
Dak Prescott and Davis Mills each threw 15 picks last season.
That's what I'm saying. It's bold.
So it is bold. And let's go to the 2021 season.
I feel like there's one.
Matt Stafford and Trevor Lawrence each threw 17 in that regular season.
Like I said, bold.
And then 2020, we'll go back one more. Carson Wentz threw 15 picks, and so did Drew Lock. So this is a bold prediction. Not just to lead the league in interceptions, but to top 20.
Maybe, Josh, maybe that's what we'll do. Instead of predictions like on our Instagram, because I'm trying to tally up all of our conferences and things, maybe we'll do our 3 bold predictions for each division and conference we go through. Maybe we'll post that on our Instagram. So that way it's like unique. I'm just saying. Throwing that out there. Like Josh and I are talking business while we're recording the podcast.
On that note with Anthony Richardson,
yes,
we're going to see basically 3 rookie quarterbacks in this division.
This is true. This is true.
I assume Will Levis is going to start at some point for the Titans, and CJ Stroud's going to have the job with the Texans, I assume, which I think is going to further play into like why I think it's the Jags division to lose. You obviously don't think that it's going to be even close to them coming to like second place. But Vegas over-unders for win totals. They do have the Jags at 9.5, which I do think they go over. Then you got the Titans at 7.5, and then the Texans and the Colts at 6.5.
And you look at the Titans,
I think that's pretty high for the Colts.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Titans, they're reported to be signing Hopkins, I believe, right? I believe that they're reporting that they're going to sign him.
Because the Titans are a team that has a stable front office with a culture of winning and a proven quarterback.
Of course.
Just like you wanted.
But yeah, there's all these other teams out there, No, so do you want to talk about maybe the other teams, or do you want to talk about or how do we think they're gonna finish overall?
I think we can talk about a little bit of them. If I had to,
what would you say the second best
place,
team? Second best team.
It's got to be the Titans, right?
It has to be.
You still got Derrick Henry in there.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like they're committing to any. I thought they might eventually try to rebuild with all the cuts that they were initially making, and then the Derrick Henry trade rumors. But at least for the moment, it looks like they're going to try to compete one more season. I don't know if Tannehill is going to be the starter, and then eventually Will Levis is going to take over. You still got Derrick Henry there.
They still have
a good DeAndre Hopkins, line. Treylon Burks at receiver.
They still have a good offensive line. I'm looking at their offensive line. I'm like, it's not that bad of an offensive line. It's young.
No Taylor Lewan or Ben Jones, but those guys have been struggling with injuries the last couple of years anyways.
They have Skoronski and they have Petit Frere. They have two dudes that are legit tackles that can do some damage. I look at the tight end room. You don't have any big names. Like you have Elise Mack. I'm trying to look at some other guys. I don't even recognize half these tight end names. But then you look at wide receivers. You're going to have a loaded wide receiver room if you can get them to be playing on. Not really. I'm kidding. Generally, because wide receiver wise, you have two. You're basically too deep at wide receiver. You're too deep at wide receiver, pretty much.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it. Then at running back, obviously you have Henry. I'm interested to see what they do with Malik Willis. What do they do with him? What do they trade him? Whatever they're doing with him. Defensive wise, I think defense is going to be where that's going to help them save games. I think if you look at it, not sold on their team as a whole. If I look at their schedule right now, I was looking at it, I see them winning New Orleans. I see that as at New Orleans loss, win, loss, win. I see them maybe winning, I think 8-9 games, maybe 10, but I really think 8 or 9. That's where I think I think that's their cap.
I think 7 or 8 for them, maybe.
Yeah, that's where I think their cap is.
The Colts, I think, could finish third. It's just I really hate the quarterback situation with Richardson there,
they made a mistake. They made a mistake not to bring a guy in.
I think. Well, they got Minshew there, Gardner Minshew, and I think they would be wise to at least start him at least this entire season or most of the season
until you start losing a lot.
Yeah, until the fans start saying put in the 4th overall pick. That's inevitably what always happens when you got a quarterback that you draft in the first round. Yeah. Well, the weapons are there though with Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman. You got a solid enough defense that can keep you in games, I think, and still a offensive line that's got Quentin Nelson and a couple other solid guys. I just think like most of the last couple seasons, the quarterback position is going to hold him back.
I'm going to say they're going to win, I think, 6 games, maybe 7 if they're blessed. 5, 6, or 7 is where I'm kind of leaning with them in that range. And I think they're the third. I think the thing you're realizing if you're listening to this, the thing you're realizing is that Josh and I are this might be the only division at the NFL that we are both agreeing on 1,000% of the order.
Yeah, because
it's the easiest one to figure out. The rest of them are all kind of a mosh of everything. Once the AFC North comes, we're both going to be all over the place because that whole division is up for grabs.
Texans though, man, they had the number 2 pick this year. They would have probably had the number 2 pick next year. But now it's the Cardinals pick, which is why they're talking about the Cardinals having 1 and 2,
which would be amazing for them.
So, I think it's basically CJ Stroud and everybody else. Good luck, buddy.
I think this is the thing. I think Texans win. I see them winning 3 games, maybe 4. I think 3 or 4 games. I think Stroud will have a very good year. I told you I was going to give you a third bold prediction. Maybe Josh can think of some bold predictions, but my bold prediction, and it comes with CJ Stroud. My bold prediction is CJ Stroud leads all rookie quarterbacks in passing touchdowns and passing yards. Not that they're going to win games, but I believe he's going to, because of this thing, I think their defense is not going to be that great. and I think they're not going to have much of a running. I think they're going to have a decent running game, but what I've learned with CJ is that he's been around a lot of talent. I think he's going to throw a lot of touchdowns, but I think he also might throw quite a few picks. So I'm going to say that's my bold prediction. CJ Stroud will still lead the NFL rookies in touchdown passes and touchdown and passing yards, even though I know many people are going to look at me and go, what about Bryce Young? Well,
I think Bryce Young's in a little bit better of a situation.
no, I agree. I'm not saying that, but I also just feel like the Texans are going to just open the playbook, I feel like, and they're just going to be like, dude, go do what you do.
They're going to have to, yeah.
So that's my bold predictions. Josh, do you have any bold predictions for the AFC South?
I'll give you one bold prediction that I can think of off the top of my head, and I'm going to go ahead and say Calvin Ridley finishes in the top 10 for receiving yards in his first season back.
Yeah. I will do an honorable mention that I just thought of in my head. An honorable mention, out of nowhere thought process here. Bold prediction of Henry will either be traded by the trade deadline or he will end up with less than 1,100 yards rushing.
I've been thinking about something along those lines too. And I can't decide if it's Tannehill that they're going to part ways with or if it's going to be Henry.
So that's my thing. It's one of the two things. I don't think
Henry's going 1,100 though. I think they play through him too much and he's too tough. I think he still could get 1,100 yards. But
I say my bold prediction is that he's going to get traded. That's going to be my bold prediction.
Okay. I think he's the one last piece on their team that most teams would see as valuable that they would want to trade for. And if you got a team
that's close, but not quite
close, that could maybe like use one running back to help him out, I think maybe you see a trade there. But
can I tell you a team that I think he'd fit perfectly on? Absolute, I think would be phenomenal. Imagine putting him on the New York Jets.
I don't know if they need to do that though, because Breece Hall and Michael Carter are two young running backs.
I know, pretty solid. But just imagine if you need that extra boost going into the postseason, like right at the edge. If they're right on the edge of making the postseason, imagine him in the backfield with Aaron Rodgers. Then you got the wide receiver weapons that you have. I'm just saying that's just one of those I have.
Maybe I think if the Jets are going to make a trade, it's probably for a different position.
That's true. I'm just saying I think it'd be a great fit, but that's just me because I'm just weird. I don't know. But anyways, that I like that. I will be posting these bold predictions. We'll make a list for all the different conferences. It's just we didn't think
of some too, so it's not just Ben with 5 and me with 1.
Because it looks awkward. Anything else you want to talk about with the AFC South, or shall we finish up the episode?
I think we can finish up. I think that's a solid coverage right there.
I do have a top 5 for you this week, since Josh, you were so nice and you came
and sprung it on me last week.
So I'm going to spring it on you this week.
All right,
here we go. If you're watching any type of if you're watching any type of sporting event, especially on TV, right? Maybe college football. Let's just talk about like football games on a Saturday evening, Saturday afternoon. What is your go-to? This can be a combination, go-to snack or meal. Like if you're watching a game, these are the top 5 like kind of choices you would go in order of like, this is what I'm going to eat, or this is what I'm going to have to snack on.
Is this a game that I'm watching at home?
Yes, at home.
Okay.
Like you're with a bunch of friends, or you're just with your dad or something like that. How would you think what would you do? Do you want me to start with my number 5?
I'm going to go ahead and write down my 5 that I feel like I would include and then rank them. But let me go ahead and hear your 5 first.
All right. Number 5.
Your 5th.
Yeah. Number 5 for me is just a simple, like, freaking bowl of popcorn. I'm just going to go simple. That's like, especially if it's at night, like if it's a night game, like at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, it's just gonna be a bowl of popcorn with like a Sprite or a Coke just sitting there. That's gonna be number 5 for me.
Yeah, number 5, and I mean this is probably gonna be for the night games where it's like I've already probably eaten dinner. It's gonna be some kind of chip or something like that. Maybe like a Dorito or a Cheeto or salt and vinegar chip, or just whatever chips are in the cabinet at the time. That's gonna be number 5.
Okay. That's actually a good one, because that's up there. That's up here for mine, actually. It's not here yet. Number 4 for me would be a Subway or some type of like that sandwich. Especially, I feel like this. I did this a lot specifically during my, like if we would watch a game like at noon, I feel like I would go to Subway and get a sandwich and then watch some football. So I'm gonna go Subway sandwich, specifically the Ben Bowden special. Yes, that was I actually had a special at Subway in Little Old West Liberty. So I had my own little sub combination, but that's what I'm going to say: a Subway sub with some type of chips on the side for a good lunch.
All right, number 4 to me, and it's kind of along the lines of sandwich, but this is going to take a little bit more prep time. The sliders that people can make sometimes in the oven, like some ham, cheese, and then it's got like the nice little drizzle at the top, the oil or whatever the heck it is, and you bake them.
We
and
don't
it
really
comes
know
out.
what it is. We don't really know what it
I
is.
don't really know what to call it. I'm not in the kitchen all the time making them. I've never made them myself, but when they're at like some kind of Super Bowl
Yeah.
party or whatever, I always grab a couple. So sliders number 4.
Number 3, I hope this is on your list. Maybe it won't be. Pigs in a blanket. And if you're European and don't know what that is, it's the most amazing, simple snack of all time. Okay, and it's not what you actually think. So some people are going to be listening and be like, what does that mean? Listen, pigs in a blanket are simple. It's like the doughy, like frozen croissant rolls that you then bake with a hot dog and cheese inside. It's legit awesome. And I will have those 1,000 times over. I'm going to go that as number 3. And I know that threw Josh off for that. Was a curveball he did not see
Did.
coming.
I don't even know if pigs in the blanket would be in my top 10, but
oh, that hurts.
Sorry, Ben. Number 3 for me, I'm gonna throw pizza from a local
3?
pizzeria in your town at 3. Yes.
Wow.
I got 2 that I like a little bit better,
Okay,
but
okay,
3,
gotcha.
I mean, pizza's easy. There's no
Yeah.
prep time, and if
No
you
prep
got a
time.
really good local spot in town, it's just like everybody loves pizza. Like Michael Scott said in The Office, rich people love pizza, poor people love pizza, white people love pizza, black people love pizza.
It's true.
It's gonna please everybody.
It's true. 2 for me, and this is one that I think is one that I think is a little maybe unconventional. I don't think many people would say it. Is I'm gonna go with simply either like some type of Mexican food, whether that's Chipotle, whether that's Taco Bell. Yes, I consider Taco Bell Mexican food. Okay. Or over here in Hungary, we have different types as well. But I think that is like one of my go-tos. I think it's just like fun to go to Taco Bell, get like, I don't know if they still sell it or not. They used to sell like the 12 pack box.
I think that's still a thing.
Yeah. Still bought 12 of them, go home, watch some football and eat that. So I'm going to go Mexican food.
All right. Well, I'm actually along the lines there too. And I was gonna go with some type of nacho or
Yeah,
like a
a
buffalo
nacho
chicken
stuff.
dip,
Yeah.
like those 7-layer ones.
Oh, that's just
or whatever, where you
heaven.
actually like nachos with the cheese, the jalapenos. You get your meats, your tomatoes, and whatever. Like just like all out nachos, not just any chips and cheese or chips and a dip, but stacked up nachos for sure.
True. That is good. Number 1 for me, and this is not even a question. This wasn't even a debate. It is pizza. It does not matter what pizza place is from. It doesn't matter. I can eat Domino's. I can eat Donato's. I can eat Pizza Hut. I can eat Little Caesar. It does not matter. There's something about having a box of pizza in front of you, watching an Ohio State football game or Cleveland Browns game, and just eating a whole box of pizza by yourself. And it makes you feel somewhat not unhealthy. But
I've done that a lot of times.
I know. I think we all have. So I'm going to go pizza number 1.
All right. My number 1, it's going to be wings.
Oh, okay. I the wings just
sometimes you can make them. I've never made them myself, but I do like getting them from a grocery store here in town. Makes really good wings. There's also a pizza joint not too far away that makes some really good wings. And then like Buffalo Wild Wings, it's like that's where a lot of people like to go to watch sports, and they're easy to eat. You got a lot of different sauces to choose from. Ranch blue cheese on the side. It always makes a great game day food to me when you're just at home with the boys or by yourself watching.
Yelling at the TV.
It's gonna be wings for me.
Yelling at the TV and not caring. But that is our episode for today. So we hope that you have enjoyed this episode. If you disagree with any of our statements, which I know many people disagree with probably what I've said, because I had some very very strong opinions about things today, then please let us know in the comments.
Put the Jags win total in the comments.
Hey,
That's the hottest one.
I'm just saying it's true. Let us know in the comments. I'm sure we will bring it up in the future when Ben is right, when the Jaguars are sitting in the playoffs at 13-4, and I can tell Josh I told him so. Make sure you clip this and then post it on YouTube later. But anyways, we hope you have a great weekend. Whatever you're doing, whether you're out, hopefully you're not getting heat stroke or anything, because it's super stupid hot out. Make sure you guys drink a lot of water, stay cool as you can. And if you love this episode of the podcast, go ahead and like it and subscribe on YouTube, and go ahead and make sure you share it from Spotify. It'll allow us to keep growing as we do. As we always say, until next time, we'll see ya.